Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. The voice is a little rough, but let's see if we can get through this one. Listen guys, there are rumors that Gerard might sue Carl Jobs. That's right. Mudahar was in a podcast and, I'm paraphrasing here, but he had suspicions that maybe Gerard would go after a Carl Jobs. Now, let me say this, guys. If you are familiar with me, you know that I've talked about this individual before I covered him. One of the few stories that I still sort of follow, this came across my feed. And I know about this and maybe about the Amico, not much else. Right now, I'm going home to write a paper about the market fluctuation of peaches between summer and winter. So that's kind of life I'm having right now. But going back to this, guys, first let me say I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice. This is just my opinion based on my experience. That's it. Nobody that's been in a lawsuit or more than one lawsuit ever says I want to be involved in one. Let me tell you that. And by his own admission, Carl Jobs has had a price to pay for being involved in this lawsuit with Billy Mitchell, a personal price to pay. From his own words, he said how taxing it has been, in his life, mental state, what have you. And of course, it's going to affect your family. Now, if Gerard does this, he's going to be having two lawsuits with multimillionaires, right? Whatever you want to say about Gerard, his family has money. They definitely have the resources, and his dad, for sure, is a multimillionaire. And when it comes to the law here, guys, I don't know how it is in your country or wherever you're listening to, but usually it's about resources, and you can't really depend on any judge or jury out there. You don't know what's going to happen. You might think that you have a strong case, but you never know what's going to happen. And let me tell you, when you're involved in a lawsuit, whether it's in business or personal, that's all you think about. Now, I've only had experience in lawsuits in business. I'll give you an example of one. I was involved when I was an operations manager for a company. We were involved in a lawsuit where this guy claimed to have a patent with his company on something that we were doing. Now, our company was older. We were doing this before his company was even formed. Luckily, this guy jumped the gun. We didn't know this guy had filed a patent on something that we thought was common knowledge in the industry, and proceeded to hit us with a 50% charge, right? This guy wanted 50% of our earnings to keep doing what we were doing as part of our services. It was absolutely insane. Now, anybody that would look at this and see that this guy, was just patent trolling, basically, would have known that this should have been over within 5 minutes. It took 3 years to come to a settlement with this guy. And this guy was a piece of work, let me tell you. At the end, he was like, well, just give me my lawyer's fees and we'll be good. And we're like, you son of a bitch, you sued us without a fucking reason. But anyway, to make a long story short, look, you can't rely on what you think is right. You might think you're 100% in the right and still lose in court. You can think you're 100% right and not get the outcome you wanted. And you have to look at as a business, because whether he likes it or not, Carl Jobs is acting as a business, and it would be the new business for a lot of journalists out there, which ties in, to the conversation we're having about what is the future of journalists. The future of journalists is Carl Jobs, right? Your readers, your viewers, your supporters have to support you. They have to donate. Now, I told you before, if I was Carl Jobs, I would just cash in my chips and say, thank you for the donations. Let me know who wants them back, but the rest I'm going to put in a Swiss bank and, just retire, do whatever I need to do. Regardless, guys, if you have two of these going on, one of them already is affecting your mental state, right? Your family. Okay, let's forget about whether Carl is right or wrong. Let's just look at the cost that this is having on his life. Now, if you're a plaintiff, if you're Gerard on the other side, if you were going to sue him, right? This would be the time you would do it, because now he's fighting on two fronts. And he's fighting people with a lot more resources on two fronts. Again, guys, forget about the rights and wrongs. I'm just looking at this from a personal point of view. If this was you and you had to put your family through this, would you? I wouldn't. I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't even put it through the first one. You know, my wife would divorce me if I told her we were going through all this because I was having a fight over Donkey Kong. You know, and the problem is, you know, people are gassing this guy up, telling him, oh, yeah, you need to stand up for what's right and that. Yeah, you know, I would do it in a YouTube setting where you're just talking shit on the internet, you know, when you're just going back and forth on videos. But when you have Billy Mitchell, a person who is looking for retribution for what he feels has been wronged, and he's willing to spend the money, this is going to cost Billy Mitchell $3 million. Billy Mitchell is not worried about money. He's worried about making a point. And so will Gerard. And I think Gerard would have even more of an emphasis on vengeance because his career is over. It's done. Look at what happened to his channel. And people think, why does he still have the channel up? Because now you can prove how your business was affected negatively, right? Affected negatively. And when it comes to these type of trials, when it comes to the type of lawyers you can hire, it really has to do with money. Let me tell you, some of these lawyers, I mean, if you're just hiring a lawyer, you know, off the rack, whatever, you give your retainer, you spend your 10 grand, they're going to take your case, they will defend you, whatever. You know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. There's other attorneys out there that are sharks, they have their own investigation units. By the time they get to court, they know what the judge's favorite cologne is. They know where their kids go to school. They know where you went to school. They know who the first person you kissed is at. You don't know what they're going to bring to court. They have many more resources than you do. And winning a case ultimately is going to be about resources. Can they string you out over a long period of time? Can they pay the best expert out there? Right? Let's say that you think that you have a case. And because you invented, I don't know, some video game, and you're fighting this large corporation, and the large corporation brings the top scientist in the country to testify on their behalf, who do you think the judge or jury or whoever is going to listen to more? Your opinion, or the top person on their field, who's just saying whatever they need to say because they're getting paid, but at the end of the day, they are an expert, right? And that's what happened with Twin Galaxies. Afterwards, they found out the colorful past of the so-called expert, right? But that's besides the point. By that time, you know, you already folded your tea, right? You're already done. So Twin Galaxies signed off and said, we're not willing to spend this kind of money. You know, we'll just do whatever we need to do to settle. Now, Carl Jobs said he won't settle. But fighting on two fronts is going to be very hard. Fighting two multi-millionaires at the same time is pretty hard. What makes Carl Jobs different than somebody else, I mean, there's people out there have said worse things about Gerard, right? He's a public figure. You can comment on his looks, you know, on, you know, whatever. You can criticize him, make fun of him, you know, have a good time with him, you know, whatever it is, right? What makes Carl Jobs different is that he has a large audience, and when he says something, he says it as a statement of fact, right? Some moron can say that. Somebody that is irrelevant, right? Like if I say, I believe this guy is X, Y, or Z, or he, you know, violated this law, right? It could be anybody talking shit on the internet, and they can say anything. You can take them to court, but are really going to spend, I don't know what it, you know, if they're in your same state, you're going to spend 10 grand. If they're in another state, maybe 10 to 15. You know, if you're going to another country, you know, it could be 15 and up, right? And in the end, you're going to end up spending, that's just for the retainer, guys. I'm not talking about the total bill. I'm just talking for a lawyer to talk to you, to start the process, right? That's your first bill. Are you really going to do that just to talk to some, just to have some idiot on the internet be quiet? No, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about that. I sure as hell wouldn't do it. That's why these things should be kept on video. But if you have a large audience and you call yourself a journalist, right? And I don't know what type of journalist Carl Jobs is, but for the sake of this argument, let's just say he's like a traditional journalist that somebody would consider. And of course, whoever's suing him, that's the case they're going to make because they have such a great reach, right? He has such a great reach with his channel. I mean, would you go through all that, just to prove a point? Well, if you have enough money, the hell you would. If you feel that you suffered some sort of damage, the hell you would, right? That's why you see a lot of newspapers print retractions. That's why you see some reporters out there make apologies, because at the end of the day, what do you want to do? You want to go to court and spend $500,000? What has Billy Mitchell spent? $3 million? So you're going to have to outspend him. I know that Carl Jobs feels pretty strongly about whatever case he's presenting, right? And most people out there agree with him. But that doesn't matter a hill of beans in a courtroom. The courtroom doesn't care about YouTube. The courtroom doesn't care about how many followers you have. They don't care, right? You have to go with whatever the law is and the lawyers that you hired, and whoever has the most pull is going to win. Unfortunately, here in the U.S., and in a lot of places, the color of justice is green. And whoever has the most amount of green is going to win. Would I do this? Would I put my family through this? I wouldn't. I know some people would, but he's already saying how much this has affected him personally, right? How much it has put stress on his life. What would double the litigation do? I can't imagine it would make it any better, right? And it would put more stress on his family. So, I mean, if Gerard is considering doing this, that's probably something they're factoring to it, because there is no way that Carl Jobs is going to be able to fight two multimillionaires in court at the same time, right? Without suffering a huge amount of stress, guys. And I'm not saying that he couldn't win. You don't know, we don't know what can happen in court. What I'm saying is you have to factor the cost. And it's not only the monetary cost. It's the personal cost to you and to your family. That is probably why Gerard is considering it, because he knows that he has Carl Jobs in a very vulnerable place right now. Because he's still out there talking about it. He's talking about his state of mind, what's going on with the case, this and that and the other. At some point, one of his lawyers is going to tell him to shut up, right? Because he has said these things. It's probably what has prompted Gerard to be considering something like this, because he knows he's in a superior position right now, because Carl Jobs' resources might be, stretched out at this point. We don't know. I mean, I'm going to follow the case. Don't get me wrong. I hope the best for the guy, but whenever you make your business model making accusations against people who have shitloads of money, hey, these are some of the consequences, pimp. I mean, it's entertaining as hell. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all of it. But I'm not going to sit here and gas you up and tell you that, Carl Jobs is going to win everything, because I don't know. You never know what the hell the courts are going to do. You just really never know. All right, humans, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.